another episode of the Red, White, and You Show with the Military Medium. Today I have a multi-leveled, a well-rounded individual, I guess you could say. The Marine Corps wasn't enough for this guy. He decided to come to the Army. You know, he kind of woke up. No, I'm just kidding. So this guy, Chase Millsap, joins us today. He is a chief content officer for We Are the Mighty, a military magazine. We'll let him share more about what that is, so I don't butcher that. But get this: he was Marine Corps Infantry Officer. Decided the heck with that. That wasn't enough. He came over to the Army side and joined the SF folks. He's also an author, an actor, and a movement of No One Left Behind. Chase Millsap, welcome to the Red, White, and You Show again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Dean. Yeah, two services. I don't know if I got smarter, if I got dumber. Who knows? But I got to play in both worlds.
Right. So take us a little bit back in your background. So you went to Annapolis, right? So you went to the Naval Academy.
I did, yeah.
And you got commissioned. And how many years did you serve with the Corps?
I was 5 years. So I did 5 years, 3 deployments to Iraq during that time. Was you said an infantry officer. Got a chance to lead a platoon, and then was on a MIT team. Where they were having you advise the Iraqis. And I just got lucky. Ended up working with an ODA right on the Syrian border, and I kind of looked at it one day and I said, "How do I get to be you guys?" And it was kind of pre-MARSOC days. They had just getting off the ground, so that I didn't know that was coming, and they kind of hazed me a little bit, made me run around the team house and kind of prove my worth. And then finally got the green light to go over to selection. Went as a Marine, which I don't recommend.
Really?
Yeah, I was in a Marine uniform.
Oh boy, I bet you that was fun.
Oh yeah, you talk about standing out. Yeah.
Come here, Marine. I love that.
Yeah. It didn't take them about 30 seconds before they're like, "Why are you here?" And I'm like, "Well," but did it, passed, and then ended up going through the guard, and was a guard SF officer, led an ODA, and then decided to go out and go into Hollywood, which is the crazy stuff. So
right. How do you make that transition from the military, regardless whether you're a guard or active duty, regardless to me? But how do you make that transition from the military to Hollywood? How do you?
It was, I guess it kind of comes down to the fact that, like most of us, I just grew up watching movies, a lot of military movies. Right. That was kind of the inspiration for me. My parents didn't serve, so it was, grandparents did. But, I just was really attracted to the military through movies. I mean, Few Good Men probably led me to the Marine Corps. But, and others that are out there. And so as I was getting out and trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, I had an opportunity to come out to LA and kind of see the way that the production business worked. And it's hard, no doubt about it, trying to find, a way in. But I kind of looked around and I saw, how between the writers and the directors and the producers and the camera team. And I looked around, I was like, this is a platoon, right? It's the same thing, right? It's people working together in a mission. I said, look, I think I can do that. So 5 years later, here we are.
Craziness, isn't it?
Yeah.
So now you're still the chief content officer, right? For We Are the Mighty. So take the listeners and the viewers a little bit into the world of what you do and what is a synopsis of what is We Are the Mighty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this kind of leads into the being able to stay out here in Hollywood. I got very lucky. Timing was on my side. And as I came out here and was learning the business, there was a man named David Gale, and David Gale, former MTV producer. He is responsible for the Jackass movies, Varsity Blues, Napoleon Dynamite, my personal favorite. And he looked around as he was coming to the end of his MTV career and said, what are some audiences out there that just don't have content around them, entertainment? And he really focused on the military, and did a year of exploring, went all the way from the Pentagon to meeting veterans in the space, went to the VAs, and really tried to understand the community. and he started a company in 2014 called We're the Mighty. And the whole idea was, let's create a network for the military veterans and their families. Same way that ESPN is to sports fans, we do the exact same thing. So we create content every single day, and that can be, in online. So we have articles and videos that go out that you can, look on your computer and your phone. We have TV and film that's coming out, later this year, which I'm happy to talk about. We got our first TV show coming out in July.
Nice.
So it'll be out by the time this gets out. So
Sweet.
Everyone will watch it. So and then working on podcasts and other ways to get to the audience. And at the end of the day, it's real simple for us. It is about celebrating service. I personally believe, and the team believes, that whether you are still wearing the uniform or you taking it off, that there's something inside of you that just has that desire to serve. And so we really kind of tap into that.
Well, the old adage, once you put on a uniform, you really don't take it off, right? It kind of gets in your soul. There's an aspect of it that kind of stays with you forever, right? You can be 90. I think you were just sharing, off air that, that you were talking with some folks from World War II, right? Doing some interviews and how relating to you guys some of those stories. And, I'm sure it was like it was yesterday. And you remember back to probably your Iraq days and whatever. It is, in a sense, you start talking about it, it's like you still remember that vividness. And so once you put on that uniform, it still stays with you year after year.
That's exactly it. It doesn't go away. And you're right. We had an opportunity to interview as the team, to interview some World War II vets, because we're coming up on the 75th anniversary of, it's already kind of passed now, the end of the European theater. We're coming up on the end of the Pacific theater. And we really wanted to capture that. We wanted to capture those experiences and the feelings. And, it was pretty amazing hearing the stories of, especially, some of these, guys that are in their 80s and 90s now, that were, 18, maybe even younger, and really talking about how the last month of the war for them, in Europe, that was March and first part of April, and Pacific, closer to August. It wasn't like it was winding down. It was very intense all the way to the end. And you don't really think about that. You think, oh, the war ended, it was going down. It's like, no, it was going until it stopped. And just hearing those stories really put it in perspective.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Here we are doing this interview on April 30th and getting ready to go into May. And, and obviously this episode won't air until, the first part of the first week in October. But back when you were on the show back in the fall of last year, 2019, here we were celebrating the 75th, I believe it was the 75th anniversary of D-Day, right? And so 75 years. And in reality, when you look at this, like, 75 years is not a long time. That's like almost pretty close to a lifespan of what a lot of people would say. Well, most people's grandfathers that are in their 40s or 50s are probably in their mid to late 70s. But a lot of those folks didn't serve in World War II. 75 years is not a long time. And so when you think about it, it's like, wow, here I am thinking, okay, I'm 50. Boy, that was only 20 years prior. And, and I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it goes by really fast. Yeah.
And it's like, wow, the time span of stuff. And it's like, so a lot of people, I don't think there's a lot of folks that think about it. I wanted to focus a little bit too back on We Are the Mighty for a moment. And, if folks haven't checked out you guys' social media and website and stuff, not only how educational it is, but also how funny. You guys bring up some of that veteran comedic, right? So I want to say the essence. I smell your essence of veteranity or whatever you want to call it. But and you can quote me on that, by the way. But
no, please do. I'm going to go back to the team and tell them that we have an essence of veterans.
Yeah. But that sounds kind of creepy, I guess. So I smell your essence. But going on is talking about how in that in a sense, that essence of how veterans joke, whether it's a little inappropriate or really inappropriate, and where just, I think I remember one clip where you guys, questions people just ask, and where a
Yeah.
bunch of your team, you and your team, were asked just kind of a random off the wall questions by people, and where you'd open them up and answer them on camera. And I think it was something, if I remember right, like a stupid question like, do you ever call your drill sergeants by the first name, or some stupid thing, right? And of course, to a veteran, it's like, no, you never do that, like, unless you want to be smoked for your whole military
have a
career.
long day.
It's a long day, right? And so it's interesting because it just makes you chuckle, whether it's sometimes the absurdity a little bit, and it's just like, okay, that's really absurd, but it's funny. Yeah. And then other times it's like there's a seriousness to it, and so I like the different genres that you guys address within the culture of the the military. And I think that's great, because, and then all the different, and of course each branch has their own, and again, I'll use my term, essence, right? Because, the Army guys, we wouldn't probably, we don't use terms like gidunk and those other naval terms. And so there's a different culture within, but yet when you put everybody under one roof, we seem to kind of meld a little bit, but we all have our own.
There's a commonality. Yeah. It is funny. I mean, so we've got, on our team alone, we have all services represented. We've even had somebody from the Coast Guard in. We count them. They've been in there. Always a little weird, but that's okay.
Yep.
And also kind of age groups and spouses too. And so, nice. There is a commonality. I think people really do band to the idea that it's a team and we come together kind of naturally. But then you do find the nuances, right? I mean, even when we're kind of walking through, some of our concepts, the Navy guys will say something. I'm like, what did you just say? Like, I've never heard of that before. I just found out this the other day that the Navy doesn't have MOS numbers. I'm like, what? What does it mean they don't have MOS numbers? And
like a rating.
Seriously, go look it up. They have the rating system, right? Not a number. I'm like,
right.
I didn't know that. I should have known it, but I didn't. And so, we have fun with that, and that's at the end of the day, we want to be entertaining. We play around with a lot. The dumb military questions was great because we took those right off the internet,
right?
And and we didn't know what they were when they asked us, and so some of them I was just like, how is this a real question? But it is.
And it makes you kind of laugh a little bit, right? And so I think that's needed, not only creating an awareness, but creating a platform to, like you said, find a commonality. So whether through humor or awareness, I just think that's so awesome. And then, bringing real world news too. It's not just BS. It's not you guys just, answering weird questions. There's a real world mission there. You guys are doing real things.
Yeah. I mean, we're very much aligned. We want to work more with the active force. We want to bring, not only, news and information, kind of from a different perspective. I'm not doing breaking news, there's plenty of people out there, but, just really inside the inside story behind things. And, we kind of focus in on that. And it's been really kind of a cool experience. We were working on a project, that was about Army boot camp. And you'll appreciate this. So it's Fort Jackson, and we were actually able to go and film 10 weeks of boot camp. And we have a show launching in the middle of the year called 10 Weeks on Quibi, which is the new platform for your phones. So it's all going to be on the phone. And so we had cameras on for 10 weeks, and I'll tell you what was really, really cool about that. And a lot of people hadn't heard of us, but once they found out, kind of what we did, and the fact that we wanted to tell the story the right way, and really focus in on the experience, we really we just got to see some cool things. And I'll tell you, Army boot camp has definitely changed.
I can imagine.
And it's, there was a couple of parts of it where I was like, I don't think I could do that. that's like, they got to do combat fitness tests and all that. I'm
Sure,
like, that
sure.
looks pretty hard. So,
Right.
but it was fun. It was, and everybody, I won't give it all away, but I
Sure.
think everybody had a good time,
Good.
and we really got a great story out of it.
Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, and then, and I'm just on the site here and I'm just looking.
Yeah.
So I mean, so many, other than trending stories to tactical to culture, gaming, fitness, more, survival, all kinds of stuff, and all kinds of great stuff, whether it's breaking, movies that are coming out or all kinds of great stuff. So you guys are kind of covering it all, really. And one, and I got to share, I'm actually looking right on uh, the, the, good Lord, what am I trying to say? Um, the, the president of the Ryan Mannion Foundation,
Yeah.
and she was on the show prior as well. So it's great to see that you guys are, it was good to see her
Yeah. Ryan's
photos.
great.
Yeah.
Travis is actually a year ahead of me at the Naval Academy.
Oh, he
And so,
was. Okay.
yeah,
Did you know
yeah.
him personally or?
Not personally, no. I never had a chance to
Okay.
really get in with, but I did have a lot of friends that had, not only were friends of his, but had served with him downrange, and
Right.
and that was really important to not only me, to us, just to help
Right.
nonprofits like the Travis Mann
Right.
Foundation tell their story, get the word out.
Right.
We work with a lot of others, Team Red, White, and Blue, and others that are out there doing great work in the community, and we want people to
Right.
know, what they do, what the mission is, and just how much they're helping.
Right. And I gotta give a correction. I actually said the Ryan Mannion Foundation.
Yeah,
It's a Travis Mannion Foundation, and Ryan is Travis's sister.
yeah,
So, yep, and she's kind of the, I believe, president and CEO of the foundation, I believe, if I'm correct. So, and she wrote a book. We're just going to give her a shout out. The knock at the doors,
yeah. They're not
at
good.
the door. Sorry, the knock
Yeah.
at the door. I can't even pronounce it, and I'm looking at the damn picture here. So, I didn't say I could read.
Hey, it's okay.
It's
It's
like
okay.
army guy, army grunt. I don't have the pitch, little. It always it's kind of funny if you remember back. Chases, if you remember, like, and I don't know if they, and I'm sure they did for the Corps as well, but like, I remember like claymores and different things. They actually have like just the pictures of not a lot of words, just really simple, like do this, do that, like
Yep.
boom.
Yep.
It's
Front
like
towards
make a,
enemy,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, okay, I got that.
But let's make it really simple for the grunts. So
Yep.
that's yeah, cross culture. So let's take you back a little bit,
Yeah.
to Iraq days, because I do want to talk about a little bit about No One Left Behind and kind of that whole project that ensued, really after your time in Iraq, but it kind of was birthed from there. Can
Yeah.
you take us through that?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that, changed my life. And, never saw it coming, right? When I joined the Marine Corps, I mean, Iraq was going on, and I knew kind of what it was going, but I never thought I was going to be, embedded with the Iraqi army. And I'll tell you, my story, I'm sure is very similar to others. I just found, when I first got to Iraq in 2006, kind of had a couple special things going on. One, I was a combat replacement platoon commander, which was a very interesting experience because I got right out of training into the Infantry Officer course and got a phone call, and they said, pack your bags, you're going to Iraq in a week. And next thing I knew, I was there. I was the new guy and showing up in a platoon that had already been there, that had an officer that was no longer there. And so they, one, I don't think they were real happy to see
Right,
me.
right,
And it was a hard time, right? There was a
right,
lot of stuff going on, and so it was from just a leadership challenge. I mean, it was hard.
right,
And I found, that the platoon was, it really came along while we were there. We were able to, at the end of the day, it, became one of them, and it was really important for me to get my hands dirty, and I know a lot of officers talk about that, but I just remember feeling a lot of sandbags, and I was like, well,
right,
if that helps, then it will do it. And it was along that way that I got to connect with the Iraqi interpreters, and then even some of the soldiers. And so that's kind of how the story started. I got really close with our interpreters just because we were so isolated out there. I, got to use it every day. Um, and the Iraqi soldiers that were there, new Iraqi army. And what was really interesting is, I'll have to send you a picture from my office. There's an Iraqi flag hanging in there that the guy signed for me. And it's kind of a cool story. They, at that time in Iraq, you really couldn't, there's so many areas that were controlled by, the Al Qaeda guys and, what would become ISIS, that you really couldn't wear a uniform. And especially couldn't have an Iraqi flag in some parts of Anbar. And one of these guys had his mom made a flag. It was a beautiful flag, and sewed it together. They all signed it, and he smuggled it through.
Hmm.
And really, and that just stuck with me. And I was like, man, these guys, there's a lot of bad things about the Iraqi army, but that wasn't one of them. I think that the relationships are there. And that was started. I left, came back to the States, and never thought I was going to, I really didn't think I was going to see those guys ever again. And, got the news that I was going to be moved from a platoon to the MIT team, which is the training team. And I was going to go back and live with the Iraqis. And I'd be lying to you if I told you I was happy about that. I was pretty angry because I didn't want to leave a platoon, especially guys that I'd been working with and trusted, and was really excited, about continuing to be part of the team. And kind of got put out on the line in the middle of nowhere, and it was one of the best experiences I ever had. I lived with the Iraqi army for about 8 months. I got to work with an ODA team directly almost every day. And I showed back up, and they said, hey, you're going to be assigned to this group of Iraqi soldiers. You're going to help them. You're going to train them, and I walked in the room, and right as I looked up, there was one of the old soldiers that I worked with. And he looked at me and he's like, what are you doing back here? And we had already kind of built a rapport. We knew each other. He's a really good dude. And because of that relationship, we were able to be pretty effective. And that was sort of the 2007 time frame.
Okay, sure.
We were able to do, I think, a lot of good work together just because we trusted each other. And,
Sure.
That individual, he ended up being a captain in the Iraqi army. He had translated for a while, then was a captain. He called me, years later, 2014, and said, hey, I'm in a lot of trouble. I got to get out of here. People are coming after me, and they're coming after his family and his kids. And that really stuck with me because, this is a guy that on 2 deployments for me had really helped keep me alive.
Sure.
And when he called me and said, I need some help, I said, look, I don't know how to help you, but I'm going to do everything I can. And that kind of started the path for Noah behind him.
So this project, if you will, take us through, that's kind of the birth of it, but kind of take us through that, because that turned into something that, kind of became bigger than itself, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. So, and like I said, I mean, my experience, I think was unique to me, but, literally, thousands of us that have deployed and worked with interpreters, whether Iraq, Afghanistan, all over. I think there's a lot of similarity, right? When you're out on the line and it's, the edge of your boot is really the end of protection. You build those bonds pretty fast. And so, I wasn't the only one that had an interpreter or, soldier they worked with that they cared for. And, we found very quickly, that there were other vets out there, Matt Zeller being one of them. He's an Afghan war vet, that, we were all facing the same problem. We were getting phone calls and saying, I need help. I need to get out of here. I need something. And can you vouch for me? And we found we had 2 challenges. One was, there was a program called the Special Immigrant Visa, where you can actually get an interpreter to get a visa to come to the United States. That program's been around since 2008. It's a lot of paperwork. It has to go through a lot of different systems. So, as you can imagine, trying to translate, paperwork for an Iraqi or an Afghan isn't easy. So we found ways to make that process easier for them. We broke it down. We had translations done. We were able to get, literally thousands, up to, I think the max is about 4,000 a year.
Wow.
We were able to get applied and into the United States, which is, that was a challenge, right? Is,
Right, right.
getting people to move here to the States. And um, you imagine when you're leaving Afghanistan, Iraq, you get 2 suitcases per person, and that's it. And so, we found that when a lot of the interpreters were getting here, um, it was family heirlooms, it was, stuff, kids' toys. It wasn't a lot. So, the second part of the effort is we said, look, we got to find a way to get these people a home, get them a car, get them a job. And that was the secondary effort where we really focused our time and energy. And we said, look, if it's got to be good enough for us. So, we'd pay for 90 days rent. We'd have furniture waiting, a car. Wasn't a nice car, but
Right,
it
right.
was a running
It was
car,
right, a running
right?
car, right. Get
And
you started.
we built partnerships. So,
Right, right.
Lyft was able to really help us out. The Heinz Foundation, Starbucks, a lot of companies stepped up and said, we really like what you guys are doing. And yeah, I worked on that for probably 3 years, and then thankfully was able to pass it on to the next team. It still goes on today, and there's a lot of interpreters still waiting out there.
So,
Um,
so do you
but
know? I know at the time, I think the number that you threw out was when you were working with the organization that there was about 4,000 applicants that went through. Do you know approximate numbers of what it is today?
So it's gone down a little bit. I think all in all, we were able to get out of around 30,000, right,
Wow,
over
wow.
over the course of the entire project. So, yeah, I mean, we were able to literally change people's lives,
That's
and
really cool.
that was, I think, the most rewarding part of it. It was chaos there for a while,
Right.
but I'll tell you, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And it wasn't hard to get veterans to get on the same page and start working as a team. And we literally had veterans all across the country that said, "How can I help?" And that was really, for me, that was one of the greatest victories of it all, is just seeing people come together. And we are working on a few projects around that. Just some of the stories that have come out
Mm-hmm.
of the links that people would go to protect each other. And I got a good friend here in LA. He actually works for the company who had his interpreter live with him at his house for a year.
Wow.
um yeah, and that's, I mean, you talk about funny. I mean, there's some funny stories that came out of that.
I
So
can imagine. I can imagine. And some of the culture is trying to, here they are come, right out of Iraq and, wherever they were living and, and into the Western culture. I can only, I can only
it's
imagine.
yeah, there's a lot of funny ones. The one that kind of strikes the mind of me is, my buddy took his interpreter to the supermarket, and he tried to barter. Yeah, there. It was just hilarious, right? Like,
Ah.
like, no, you can't. It's not negotiable. So he's like, well, why not? So
Right.
it was pretty funny hearing those kind of stories.
It would be probably kind of nice sometimes to be able to
Yeah,
barter for prices and be like, "Hey,
yeah,
that's a great idea. Maybe we need to bring that back.
give it a try, see if
Give
it
it a.
works.
You never know. You
Yeah,
never know." That's so awesome. Well, you went on. Speaking of that, you went on with National Geographic to do a documentary, wasn't it,
yeah, yeah.
about all that?
Yeah, that was my first go at anything production wise. I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know how to put together a production budget. I all I knew was that a very good friend of mine, an Iraqi friend of mine, was facing one of the biggest challenges of his life. I knew that there was a very powerful story in there. And my thought was, if we can tell the story of one family, then we can help thousands. That was really where it started in my mind.
Right, right.
um, and it just so happened that my little brother, that's how I got into the business. My little brother was doing some work for National Geographic, and I called him and I said, I think I got a crazy idea for you. And he was patient enough to listen to me. And the next thing I know, they said, okay, green light, you guys are good, go. And we flew to Turkey, where he was able to get out and out of Iraq and come to Turkey, and we walked through what's it like to be a refugee, and we
Sure.
showed that side of the story and what it's like for his kids and for his wife. And that's the first time I got to meet his kids. So that was interesting, and it was also a crazy time. We filmed it in 2015. It came out in 2016. Um, we went to some of these refugee areas where there was literally, 50,000 people, waiting, and it was just pretty eye opening. Um, and thankfully from telling that story, I was able to keep doing others. But I'll tell you, I learned a lot. It'll humble you as it comes together, and at the end of the day, I think we got a chance to really tell a powerful story and it help.
Right. Well, and is that a piece why what drives you in We Are the Mighty? I mean, there's a story to tell somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the essence, and that's not just me. That's the whole team, right?
Right,
Is
right,
that
yeah,
in telling a story, you really have a chance to
right,
impact people, and in a lot of ways, change the narrative. I mean,
yeah,
we inside we just talk about it, right? We have fun, we laugh, we like to
right,
tell some of the military humor stories.
right,
We also take on some of the challenges. It's hard transitioning out. It's hard finding a job. It's hard. It's hard dealing with mental health issues sometimes. I mean, those are part of our reality. And so what we try to do is find really powerful stories of how people have lived through that experience, and at the end of the day, make people feel like hey, I'm not the only one going through this.
right, right. Well, and kind of take me through too, we also need to touch on like some of what you guys do is bringing awareness to the culture of traumas, right? And people dealing with some of the not so joyous parts of a post service or during service, regardless of what it is, right? Trying to not only bring awareness to that, but also dare I say, maybe a healing or a way to an outlet for folks.
Yeah. I mean, it really is as simple as, for me, I felt like I lost a community when I took off the
Sure.
uniform. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of value in that. And so, whether it's, on our Instagram page or our Facebook or on our website, I mean, what we try to do every day is give a place where people can come and feel like they have just a touch of that community again. Right.
Right.
You're going to
Right.
get something from that part of your
Right.
life. And if we could do more around the films and things, I think we can highlight the awareness of it. But at the end of the day, what's really cool, and it's a good story that kind of came out. We worked on a film called The Last Full Measure, and we helped.
Mhm.
It's an amazing film. It's about an Air Force pararescueman in Vietnam who was came into a battle and was able to help out an Army platoon, and was actually killed during the battle. And the soldiers in that platoon went through a 30-year process to try to award him the Medal of Honor. I mean, they their whole lives
It's crazy.
were dedicated to this, and a lot of back and forth, and through the film we were actually able to connect two of the Vietnam veterans that hadn't seen each other since that day.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
really
mean,
cool.
just amazing, right? And so these guys had obviously had moved on with their lives, but the fact that they were able to reconnect, share that moment, I mean, it was really powerful. I think it translates to the screen too. So even if you weren't
Right.
there in that moment, you still feel it. Um, that's a good example of what we try to do every day. Is if we can find those connection points and do it through story, there's a lot of power, a lot of healing in that, and honestly, it's just pretty cool to
So
watch.
so did you guys have a hand in the production or where you just did a story on the movie itself?
We came in at the later half.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Hollywood is slow, so that
Yep.
movie had been, I think they'd spent like 15 years trying to get that movie set up.
Right. 15 to
um,
20 years, I think
15 to
was
20, I mean, it was
yeah,
a
it was
long time.
crazy. Yep.
Yeah, and so they came to us and said, hey, can you help us
Nice.
get the film out and help us market it and get it to the
Yep.
community. We said absolutely. And we really dug our heels in and said, how can we get
Yep.
not only the Vietnam veterans in this or this, the newer veterans, their families, and it just so happened we found two veterans that hadn't seen each other, and we said, we got to go. We got to
Wow.
figure out how to connect them.
That's
It was
really
really,
cool.
really cool.
That's, it's so interesting that you're bringing this up in that specific movie. Episode 18, which will air on July 24th, will be Todd Robinson, who is
Oh,
the
nice.
director. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was, super stoked to be able to get Todd as a guest here on the show, and did an interview with him, and that was mind blowing in itself, and just a great guest. But so cool because there's so many and that's one of the things that he shared. It took so long from concept to actually shooting that his son, well, his kids,
Yeah.
but his son now is old enough when they finally started shooting that he was an assistant to him,
Wow.
went on the set, and I was like, wow.
Wow.
And he was like, yeah. So I was like, so yeah. So it was, yeah, like 15 to 20 years, like from original. And he goes, went through several things, but that's so interesting. It's something that I was not aware of, that there's a hidden story within there that you guys were able to connect that piece. And I
Yeah.
think when projects, regardless of what they are, um, come to life, they sometimes take on a energy or a synergy of their own, right? And again, I'll use my term essence.
Yeah.
And I'll call this episode the essence of Chase.
Yeah.
Millsap.
The essence of We're the Mighty. There
Yeah,
you go.
right. But the thing is that sometimes things just like this nuance, this other level came in where it's almost like that could almost be its own, becomes its own story of these two. And it's great that it's able to tie back, but it's like, in a sense, that's, I think so many of us, when you wear the uniform for so long, or you go through such extreme experiences, and of course, I can't relate to Vietnam because I wasn't there.
Right.
But people that have been through combat or other shared experiences together, that bond becomes tighter, right? And so you talk about with the interpreters and other advisors, and and we look after service to be part of that brotherhood or something bigger than ourselves, for the losing the sense of identity, because we feel when we're serving that is our identity. We are Chase Millsap, the Marine
Right.
Corps officer, right? The
Right.
platoon leader, whatever your title is at the time. But then, I remember when I got out in 92, before I came back in, I was really floating around going, I couldn't relate to anybody, and nobody could relate to me. And I was like, I felt like I was in La La Land. I was like, yeah, I'm a graduate of my hometown. Great. And going from job to job and nobody gets me. And I was
Yep.
like, huh. And until you get, as the service member, you're more than the uniform. However, this is a big part of your life. We get that, but you're not just a uniform. You're so much more, right?
Yeah.
A dynamic. And so I'm sorry to get on a nuance, but I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about folks kind of losing a sense of that brotherhood or that connection. And when you were talking about connecting the veterans from, have been, I think you said 30 years, since they had seen each other, connecting things like it just can be a very powerful and healing, right? So it's just, wow. I don't know if there's,
absolutely. And
so.
what's cool to watch, right? And this, I get to see this kind of every day. You see it on our social media, right? You'll see a
Right.
story come out and you'll see people respond, you'll see people connect, you'll see people share.
Right.
That's the cool part about it, right? There's a lot of things about social media that aren't so fun, right?
Right.
It can be addicting, there's all the things, but there are some good things. And so my favorite is you get a story and you get somebody that tags somebody. It's like, you have to see this, you have to see this, and that tells me we're doing our job.
Right.
And we want feedback too. I mean, that's the thing. I really wanted to make sure people listen to know, like, we're not just, some group of vets that are up behind a wall. Send us a message.
Right.
Tell us what you think. I mean, we're around. So, we're always happy to listen, and
Right.
there's plenty of experiences out there. So
Right. Absolutely. So Chase, if folks want to check out what We Are the Mighty has in store, what they're doing, where do they go?
number one spot is go to wearethemighty.com. Pull it up. You can look on your phone. You can look on, on the computer. You'll see it right there. It'll have everything that we do once over the world. And then, stay tuned, because we're going to have, pretty soon, coming up in July. So by the time this airs, it'll already come out. We've got our first TV show, like I mentioned. I've got some other projects, film and television projects coming up, in the next year, once we can turn cameras back on. So, when you go to there and check it out, and get ready to watch some things, because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, I was going to say, when that show comes out, make sure you drop me a link, and we'll make sure we share the link and awareness on our Facebook page and everything else on the Red, White, and You show, and let everybody know, because obviously, like I said, this episode, obviously folks will be like, yeah, I know, Dean, it's October 7th or 2nd, but saying it'll be already aired by that time. But so yeah, we look forward to that. But thank you so much for being a return guest, Chase. It's always a pleasure talking to you and seeing. And I think last time we talked, your wife was pregnant, and now you're saying that you have a little one crawling around.
I have
the
a
house.
Newborn, right?
Well,
so
congratulations.
She'll be almost 1 year old by the time this airs. So I appreciate that.
Crazy.
Yeah, I lose ground every day, so we're in grappling range now.
I love the fact that as soon as we came on video, you were like, "This is my last fallback defensive position." It was like that sums up a child crawling at this point. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It was like, the destroyer. Yeah, that makes sense. We gotta love it.
We're gonna hold the line. We're gonna do the best we can.
Right. Treats thrown
exactly.
Little goldfish crackers all over the house. I love that stuff. All right, my friend, thank you so much once again for being a guest on the Red, White, and You show. As always, Chase Millsap, we hold nothing against you being in the Marine Corps. We love you, brother. But
thanks,
we appreciate you being on, and we look forward to seeing what you guys continue to do over there at the magazine. And of course, as always, thank you for your service, and thank you for what you and the rest of the folks at We Are the Mighty continue to do for us and everyone else every day.
Well, we appreciate it, Dean. Thanks for having me on, and keep doing what you're doing. I love it.
You bet. Anytime.